Fascism. Let's talk about it. This should be a light topic. Fascism is a slippery word, not because it's hard to define, but because people who want to obscure what fascism is or hide their connection to fascism have an investment in making fascism mean something besides what it is. Fascism is not outlawing salt and unhealthy foods. It's authoritarian, but not always totalitarian. It's not only confined to a couple states from last century, and it's definitely not someone throwing a mug at your head.
Fascist?
It's also not left-wing or socialist, and if you believe it is, you have either fallen for 80-year-old debunked German propaganda, or you are consciously trying to spread 80-year-old debunked German propaganda. It's a transparent game of I know you are, but what am I? That is only believed by people desperate to believe it in the first place. Not only were fascist states not left-wing, they actively hated and exterminated actual socialists. Modern-day mask-off fascists march to exterminate or strip away rights from marginalized people. They don't campaign for Medicare for all. Neo-Nazis don't love Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They don't align with far-left groups to dismantle traditional hierarchies in order to create an egalitarian world. They want the opposite of that. Fascists love traditional hierarchical structures. They are very excited about them. Maybe too excited. Fascism is part of the authoritarian right on that politics graph that people put in their avatars when they can't think of something better, like Heath Ledger's Joker or a suspiciously young-looking anime character. See, I say fascism is a slippery word, but not actually hard to define because historians can simply look at how fascism arose in its varying and most famous forms and find commonalities to give it a definition. And they have. The simplest and most unassailable definition of fascism is that it is a rebirth of populist ultranationalism. This is the definition given famously by Roger Griffin, a professor of modern history and political theorist at Oxford Brookes University. The more complicated definition would be, and everything that comes from that, like the rejection of modernism and obsession with the plot against the nation, which spread xenophobia, and so forth. This criteria is attributed to Umberto Eco. So what does this have to do with Star Wars? Well, Star Wars has always trafficked in fascistic imagery. A New Hope's costume designer crafted the Empire's uniforms to put the audience in mind of Nazi Germany. This might seem like a tenuous connection to some, but fascism has always relied on pageantry and an aesthetic to sell it to the people. In film, visuals are everything, and even if Grand Moff Tarkin never turns to the camera and lays out the ideology, origins, and core values of the Empire, and how they relate to Umberto Eco's criteria for fascism, the visuals alone are the language in which Star Wars tells the audience roughly what the Empire believes. In the original trilogy, there isn't a lot of explicit focus on what the Empire believes, what their core values are. Palpatine just believes in the dark side. The Empire is an amorphous bad guy. However, there are a few moments in the original trilogy that brush up against Eco's criteria for fascism. Professor Griffin argues that fascism requires an upending of the current order and current democratic institutions. Early in A New Hope, the Empire remarks that they have finally dissolved the Senate, removing the last remnants of the old Republic. Remember, fascism is about a rebirth of ultranationalism. A left-wing radical change in government generally happens outside the system within a revolution. A marginalized people with no institutional power fighting against their oppressors with the only option they have left. A right-wing radical change in government, fascism, happens within the system, although illegal means within the system usually occur and can take advantage of current power structures. Translated to Star Wars, the rebels and later resistance want a change because their people are oppressed, and the Empire wants a rebirth because they wanted to do the oppressing. Fascism is a response to a growing egalitarianism, or influence of the minority that the majority finds humiliating, and a national defeat that they also find humiliating. The Nazis rose to power in Germany following their humiliating defeat in World War I, the humiliation of being solely blamed for the war and the sanctions imposed on their nation. Professor Griffin explained it like this. Fascism may be defined as a form of political behavior marked by obsessive preoccupation with community decline, humiliation, or victimhood, and by compensatory cults of unity, energy, and purity, in which a mass-based party of committed nationalist militants, working in uneasy but effective collaboration with traditional elites, abandons democratic liberties and pursues with redemptive violence and without ethical or legal restraints. With goals of internal cleansing and external expansion. In the prequel trilogy, Senator Palpatine works within the system but illegally uses his position to consolidate power. He invents a scapegoat, pits his people against them, abandons democratic liberties, and pursues violence without ethical or legal constraints. His goal was external expansion, the Empire itself, and internal cleansing, Order 66. The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi actually go harder when comparing the antagonists to fascists. Some of it blatantly obvious, like the unmistakable imagery used here, and some of it a bit more subtle, particularly as it relates to the whole rebirth after humiliation and defeat aspect of fascism. In a fascist movement, the past is romanticized to the point that the image of the past is obscured. The past becomes less of a memory and more of a fiction. In Italy, the fascists wanted to rid the nation of the scourge of modernism, communism, and liberalism. Italian fascism required respect for tradition and a shared past among the Italian people. Italian fascists sought to complete Risorgimento, Italian unification of different states into the Kingdom of Italy, a movement begun almost a century prior but left incomplete. To achieve the goals of Italian greatness, fascists espoused three core values: hierarchy, discipline, and order. Fascism always wants to return to an older order and claim it as the original one and the correct one. More than unification, Italian fascism invoked the past by claiming that Italy was the rightful heir to the Roman Empire itself. Fascism always tells people, once we were great, but we lost our way because of our enemy, and we will be great again if we do what is necessary. Benito Mussolini claimed that his people, the Mediterranean, were a branch of the Aryan race, though Italian fascism was far more focused on justifying its actions through culture than race. In Germany, fascism took root in a similar manner, a romanticization of the past, a perceived enemy, a unity after a perceived humiliation, and a rejection of modernism. They declared a return to traditional German and Nordic values, to remove or limit Jewish, foreign, and degenerate influences, which ranged from everything to the wrong kind of art to communism. The Nazis wanted Germany to return to an older order. They lamented their losses and, much like in Italy, told their people, once we were great, but we lost our way because of our enemy, and we will be great again if we do what is necessary. In Spain, modernism produced an election result for the Popular Front government of Republicans, Socialists, Syndicalists, and Communists. General Francisco Franco, a staunch anti-communist, led the Spanish army to crush modernism and return Spain to an older, romanticized version of itself. An older order. Once we were great, but we lost our way because of our enemy, and we will be great again if we do what is necessary. In Star Wars: The Force Awakens, we are introduced to the new antagonist of the series, the First Order, rising from the ashes of the Empire. Fascists love to connect themselves to the great deeds of the past and the great men of history, like this guy thinks he's a knight or something, bravely defending the white race from, I don't know, Mexicans? Feminists? Whoever their scapegoat is this week. The name itself, the First Order, romanticizes the past and connects the Order both to the past and to the Empire, the glorious former institution, much in the same way that Italian fascists connected themselves to the fallen Roman Empire. The heirs of the Roman Empire. So too does the First Order tell its people that they are the heirs to the Galactic Empire. They call themselves the First Order, because an admission that they are a brand new and modern thing just doesn't work for fascism. Fascism requires a past, a false history of being wronged because of the envy of others, the envy of their greatness. This is not some new order, no. This is the First Order, an older order. The originals, those tied to the greatness of the past, even if that greatness never happened. The Galactic Empire was built on a lie, oppressed the galaxy, abolished democracy, and was defeated by a ragtag group of rebels. That's who they really were, but that's not what General Hux tells his people. He tells them that they are the inheritors of the Empire of the past, and that they will rise again. In the time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, a republic is born. Leia is no longer a princess. That's ancient and hierarchical. She's committed to democracy, a growing egalitarianism, modernism. The First Order opposes modernism. Fascism opposes modernism. The First Order's actual politics, policies, and specific ideology is purposefully kept vague by the filmmakers and the studio. Nobody wants to buy a Nazi t-shirt, but everyone is cool wearing Stormtrooper merchandise. So Disney is not going to get too specific. However, the First Order's rhetoric is eerily reminiscent of how fascism begins. Once we were great, we lost our way because of our enemy, and we will be great again if we do what is necessary. What is necessary to fascists includes the eradication of degenerate influences. The First Order carries this out by annihilating the Republic planets. The First Order is obsessed with the past because they have to be. Otherwise their narrative falls apart. Then they will have dissension among them. Traitors. Kylo Ren has been manipulated by Leader Snoke into his own obsession with the past, his connection to the past and to the Empire, to Darth Vader. Kylo Ren has the burned helmet of Vader as his most cherished keepsake. This was Snoke's plan.
The potential of your bloodline. A new Vader.
It's exactly what fascism always does. It recalls the past, romanticizes it, rejects modernism, and manipulates people into believing the rhetoric about the past. Kylo Ren is the embodiment of the manipulated masses who buy into fascist rhetoric about their shared history and their glorious people. The Last Jedi has us question the past, question the romanticization of the past, and where that historically has led. It has us recognize the failures of the past as a means in which to progress as a people, not to succumb to the past and try to turn back the clock. Luke Skywalker is haunted by his failures, but in the end he learns from his failures and grows.
The war is just beginning, and I will not be the last Jedi.
He looks towards the future. Fascism never forgets its failures and never grows from its failures because it needs its failures. It needs the pain to manipulate people. Fascism refuses to grow from the failures. Instead, it blames the failures on others, on the enemy. Often an invented enemy. The past should not be killed, as Kylo Ren says. He's the bad guy. What he says is not the message of the film. Instead, the past is a teacher. Failure, a teacher. Yoda says it himself.
The greatest teacher failure is.
Go forward, not backward. Fascism depends on the past to galvanize the people. Fascism is of the past, and it's best left there.
From Kenner's Star Wars collection, each sold separately. Large-sized Darth Vader with his lightsaber. Princess Leia, champion of the rebel cause. With her defender, Luke Skywalker. You can swing him into action on his grappling hook. And load Chewbacca's laser crossbow. Star Wars large-size action figures. Up to 15